What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Wednesday. Once again, I am live at St. Thomas Sports Park as the Titans have day 2 of mandatory minicamp practice later on this morning. So I'll be there getting all the action and reporting on that later on. We had great content from yesterday. Derrick Henry back at practice for the first time since really the first time we've seen him in person since the loss to the Cincinnati Bengals in the playoffs. So we'll play some of the video of Derrick Henry's first day at mandatory minicamp practice, as well as get into how different does the King look? Because the talk of media yesterday during practice was, does he look bigger to you or is it just his dreads? So we'll dive into that conversation as well. And then Treylon Burks, the first-round draft pick, once again unavailable. That's Mike Vrabel's word, unavailable at practice. So we'll talk about that and how that trend is continuing to move forward deeper and deeper into the summer. And then there was something that I picked up on yesterday in practice that I don't think anybody else saw or heard with Kevin Byard, and it has to deal with his leadership of this team and how it is a double victory for the Titans overall. So, Zach, I'm looking forward to this show. It's still hot, but I feel like I'm prepared for it again. We've also got throwing shade on this Wednesday show, and I've found my shade tree again. The shade tree treated me well yesterday morning, and so hopefully this becomes a permanent thing as we'll have a lot more of these type of shows and content as the Titans start training camp in deep July. So let's get this thing rocking and rolling. Hope your Wednesday's off to a good start.
Yeah, and more people will pile in here as we get this show rolling. I'm curious I get some questions to ask about yesterday and the things that we're seeing on the practice field. We got a great inside look from the coverage that we did on all of our socials, especially YouTube, and that's exactly where I'm going to go, and that's our YouTube channel. I mean, literally go to our YouTube channel where you can see all of our videos and you can see the highlights, you can see the interviews, you can see the coaches speak, you can see the players speak. I mean, we're doing a fantastic job. We've grown mightily since Austin and I started this company a handful of years ago, and we got a good team behind us, but we do this to give the best digital content of anybody that covers the Tennessee Titans. And I believe that we've been doing that for years and we're continuing to do that. So subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're watching right now, hit that like button on this video. You can go check out the videos later after the show, but we got you covered here on A to Z Sports. You can follow us everywhere you see that logo, including Twitter, and we'll tweet out the YouTube links for this show throughout the course of the show. So subscribe, and also on Facebook. Had a couple of videos go viral yesterday on Facebook as Zuckerberg got his hands on those things and threw it out to NFL fans all over the metaverse. So if you're on Facebook, bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. Sharing is caring and caring is sharing. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed. So share the show around and let's get this party started on a shade day and a Titans mandatory minicamp day.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us all over social media as we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, and we go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can find the links to the show on our Twitter feed, also our Instagram story. Hit us up on TikTok too, because practice content goes out on TikTok as well. And we got to thank our sponsors before we dive deeper into today's topic about Derrick Henry, Treylon Burks, and a story about Kevin Byard. But they make it happen for us, and they help out you guys. Wilson County Hyundai, if you're in the market for a new vehicle, it's tough out there to buy a new car. Let Wilson County Hyundai be the ones you trust to make them a part of your car buying process by going to see them in Lebanon or simply at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Check them out at boneandjointtn.org. And Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans, better coverage, better rates, better service. Learn more about a health plan for you at fbhp.com/ATOZ. Austin Stanley, Zach Bingham. I am live from St. Thomas Sports Park, as behind me about 9:30, an hour, 15 minutes or so from now, the Titans will take part in day 2 of mandatory minicamp. And The big stories are as follows. Derrick Henry's back, and just to kind of go through some of the laundry list of updates, Jeffrey Simmons is in the building but did not practice yesterday. We did see Bud Dupree back out there for the first time this offseason. We did see Harold Landry for the first time this offseason, fresh off of his contract extension that he got in the offseason, as of Danico Autry, Zach Cunningham, Nate Davis, a lot of those guys who missed the voluntary work were back. Everybody is back here in the building, including Derrick Henry, who flat out looked different. And it's not just because of the dreads, because Zach, I'm sure you saw the video just like nearly 200,000 people did on our platforms yesterday of Derrick Henry. He no longer has the sphere, which we also learned yesterday. He did not have a name for that with his single sphere dread. He just said whatever you guys call it. But he had the loose dreads out there yesterday. What did you think of the hairdo before we dive into how he actually looked physically?
So my first reaction was like, I guess it would have been like Madden 2015, where they have Derrick Henry, but you got loose dreads. It was just the like player has dreads like model. Like there was no, and they were waving around, and we'd never seen Derrick Henry, but they had kind of continued that. Now the evolution of Madden and PlayStation 5, it has gotten better and improved. But that was my first thought, because you used to play with Derrick Henry and those dreads used to pop on his back. Yeah. And we actually saw that for the first time, because it had been, you know, I like to call it like, it was like a honeycomb. It was like tightly packed. That's how
it was like a damn weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Well, and maybe the philosophy is that so it couldn't be brought down by it. But, you know, guys like Ricky Williams, and we've seen this for years, of guys with dreads, because it is a part of your jersey. The NFL made that, a rule years ago. And, you know, Derrick Henry hasn't had that problem. The issue, or lack thereof, they can't get to the back of Derrick Henry because the stiff arm won't allow it, or his legs running away from corners won't allow it either. So it's been so unique. And then to see him in a different sort of way, and because this is a different team, Austin, I think we've been talking about that all offseason, right? With the no A.J. Brown, brand new tight end, a brand new secondary wide receiver, and Robert Woods coming in. Now, Tannehill is still there, and obviously Henry, but offensively, it feels this is the Derrick Henry show. We talked about that yesterday, and I have some stats that I want to touch on, but okay. I'm glad that Derrick Henry looks quote unquote different, because he's going to have to play different for the Titans to exceed or meet their expectations this football season, with all the surrounding pieces in the AFC and around this team.
Yeah, real quick, Xavier says it was a ponytail, Austin, not a spear. I'm calling it a spear there too. And also, Xavier adds it was a braided ponytail. Valentino says called a barrel dread. Whatever it was that Derrick Henry's had the last few years, it's loose now. And so that's what he looked like yesterday with the hairdo that he was asked about. And he knew he would be asked about it. But here is Derrick Henry actually on the practice field yesterday, going through all these drills. I thought he looked bigger. And, I was talking to Ron Davenport. I was talking to other media members. I was talking to Buck about this. Are we just looking at Derrick Henry with loose dreads? Does that make him look bigger, or is he actually bigger? Because I feel like he looks as explosive as he typically looks. He looks as fast and as smooth as he's looked over the last few years. But I seriously think he looks bigger, Zach. And I don't know if it's because the foot rehab that he was going through allowed him to get more upper body done. But he was asked yesterday after practice, like, how many hours do you lift a day? And he just said, a lot. And so Derrick Henry going through practice drills yesterday, I think if you're a Titans fan, obviously he's just kind of cruising there in that drill, working on zone reads there. But he looked pretty good to me yesterday for seeing him for the first time in person in a long time.
Yeah, well, and Orlando's, I'm going to give the love of the show to Orlando, because we have this exact show and have since Derrick Henry was a rookie. And then after that, every year I do get a report live saying Derrick Henry looks bigger. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just saying
is
we
it
hear
wrong?
that report.
Is it wrong? Okay, so Derrick Henry gets bigger and stronger every year. Like, is that wrong for us to point out and say? But normally you hear a lot of people saying, oh, Derrick Henry's got them chicken legs. You remember that? You remember how we went through the chicken leg Derrick Henry phase of people saying how thin and lean his legs look? It's just because he's 6'3", and his upper body's so freaking big that his legs look lean, but now his legs don't look as lean as they usually do. But yes, every year Derrick Henry seems to add more muscle, and so that's just what we're looking at.
So if you'll run the video again, I do think, and I think people can view it themselves, he does look bigger. Like I agree with you, Austin. There's something about him, and maybe he definitely looks different because of his hairstyle, right? I mean, we've confirmed that, but I think it was this one. Look at these legs. Yeah. Like, look at the trunks on this man. I mean, you can see him go around. His legs do, and his thighs in particular, look bigger. And I think this is because, is this bulking season? You talk about, no, I know I'm serious though, because you're probably going to thin out a little bit and get more speed during training camp. This is bulking season, right? We're in June, and he said it himself. He works out a lot. A lot probably is like multiple times a day, right? And which is baffling.
He actually was asked. He was asked about. I forget who asked him, but like, why do you want to, work out on your own and not work out with the rest of your teammates for voluntary workouts? He's, well, in COVID he wasn't allowed to be here, so he started working with Melvin Sanders in Texas, and then he had a 2,000-yard season. So he's like, well, it's not broke, don't fix it, because then he has continued to play really well. The injury aside, obviously, we understand that. But he also mentioned that he gets to set his own schedule. He wakes up early. He hangs out with his daughter while his lady, he said, goes and has a workout in the morning. Then she comes back to hang out with the daughter, and then he goes and works out for the first time. He says sometimes I work out twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, sometimes it's lift in the morning, field drills in the afternoon. He gets to set his own schedule because when you're here in Nashville and at the team facility during voluntary workouts, you're limited to just 4 hours a day at the facility, whether it's meetings, working out, conditioning. And so Derrick Henry can set his own schedule when he's out there doing whatever it is he's doing in Dallas with Sanders Fit, as he goes by.
So, look, we can sit here and lush over Derrick Henry all day, right? That's easy to do, and Titans fans can do that. But I do want to talk about the pressure that is on Derrick Henry and the fuel, because he talked about, and I want to get this quote right. He says, quote, it definitely fueled me in the offseason, talking about the loss that the Titans took against the Cincinnati Bengals. He went on to say, I get motivated by anything. Someone could motivate me and wouldn't even know it. The doubters, whatever they'll be, I am definitely motivated and ready to go. We're going to see, end quote. And this is going, and I'm going to bring back what we talked about yesterday, because I actually, and this is, look, I did a poor job yesterday of explaining my thoughts, but this was, now I get a second time. This is the best part. I get another show to double down and
you live to play another down, right?
To get this right. I did a little homework, right? And what I was trying to express yesterday, and the overall, I think what the NFL has become, the fact of the matter is, when the Titans have got eliminated from the playoffs, Derrick Henry has not been king. He just hasn't. If you look at all of Derrick Henry's playoff appearances, and that's dating back to even, way back in the divisional round of the playoffs when Tom Brady was playing for the New England Patriots and the Titans were wearing old uniforms, right? Their previous uniform set. They had just beaten Kansas City, but in that game, Derrick Henry had 12 carries for 28 yards in a loss. Titans bounced out of the playoffs. The next year in the AFC Championship game, as we know, 35-24, Derrick Henry had 19 carries for 69 yards. The next year, well, they missed a playoff year in between. The Ravens, and we all know the hosting of the playoff game, the first time that the Titans had won the AFC South in some time, they hosted the wild card game against Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry had 18 carries for 40 yards. Then
Mhm.
let's rewind just a few months ago in the divisional playoff where the Titans were the number 1 seed in the AFC. Derrick Henry had 20 carries for only 62 yards. Now, there's nuance to that because he was coming off of the foot injury. He had been out for a period of time. But these are common man stats. And Derrick Henry is not a common man. So going into this year, the motivation factor is all well and good. But Derrick Henry, and this is kind of my claim, and I put a lot of pressure and will continue to be on Ryan Tannehill because I asked you something yesterday, Austin, that you couldn't answer. When was the last time a team won a Super Bowl centered solely around their running back? And this team is centered solely around their running back. Now, they've got a stellar defense. They could be a top 5, a top 3 defense in this league. They've got Robert Woods, which is an experienced wide receiver. They got Treylon Burks, which we're going to talk about, and Tannehill with the biggest chip on his shoulder, probably next to Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah. No.
What do you think about the stats that I just read? Because when it comes to elimination, the king has not been king.
Yeah, you lose games when your best players don't perform at a high level. That's my explanation for that. You win games when your best players play at a high level, right? It's pretty cut and dry. And I feel like I'm saying a Mike Vrabel line of that yes, they need Derrick Henry and the run game to be better in the playoffs because they've had 3 poor performance or under par performances for them, that if it's their bread and butter, if they're going to be set up to win games with the offense based around Derrick Henry and playing really strong defense that creates turnovers, then they have to be more productive with the opportunities that they have in the run game. So, yeah, 3 straight playoff losses, 3 straight subpar performances by Derrick Henry in those playoff games. So that's definitely something that's motivating him. He talked about the haters or whatever you want to call them is what he said yesterday about people doubting him of getting back to his all-pro, should be MVP type level play. And so I trust that Derrick Henry will get back to being himself again, especially seeing that he does have that extra motivation, because the last time he had this adversity, his back was up against the wall. He got benched by David Llewellyn. He got a talking to from Eddie George after the London game. And then all of a sudden he's been unstoppable since, unless a bone breaks in his foot, right? So I trust Derrick Henry to be able to get back to where he was from before the injury.
Man, well, we need Eddie. Since Mac 9 can't talk to Tannehill, maybe Eddie can step up and talk to Ryan Tannehill and change the way that he plays when, the pressure is on. Look,
yeah,
you spoke about this. This is the first time I feel like in Derrick Henry's football history that he's missed with injury the amount of time he missed last season, right?
Well, he broke his leg at Alabama his true freshman year. But again, that's when Alabama, I don't know what Heisman candidate running back Alabama had Derrick Henry's freshman year, but probably a pretty good one. Derrick Henry wasn't going to do much anyway his freshman year, but he did break his leg. And then now this is the newest long-term injury outside of a calf strain that he missed the game in back in 2018 or 19.
So last question before we move forward to Burks, which is, and look, overall, Derrick Henry being the way that Derrick Henry is and back is a very good thing for this franchise and this team. And you love to see him being back to pretty much full form compared to when he went out in Indy last season. Are you pro loose dreads, or do you want him to tie him back up?
I'd say I think he's going to tie him back up for the games. I think this is just a summer look. Summer breeze, let the dreads fly. But also, you got to think it's freaking hot out here. That's more surface level taken up on your neck. Let your neck breathe a little bit. I think it would be cooler if he tied him back up.
I like him. I like loose. I think this is, it's a change. It's like you go into a new season with a new look. It's a new you. It's like, somebody dyeing their hair. It's getting it's mustache, the year of the mustache. It's a change up, right? So I'm going for loose when it comes to the season. Whether it happened or not, we'll see. But I really liked the new look of Derrick Henry yesterday.
All right, A to Z Sports here live on this Wednesday. Let's talk about Treylon Burks. He missed practice again. He was unavailable as Mike Vrabel said, this is a big deal, small deal, or no deal. We're kind of taking temperature checks throughout the summer and throughout the offseason of Treylon Burks. This is a big deal, small deal, or no deal. But real quick, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org. Whenever you get hurt in life, you got to know where to go. And Derrick Henry gets hurt last season. He has the Jones fracture. What do? We turn to Dr. Jeff Watson, who's the foot and ankle specialist at the Bone and Joint Institute, to learn more about that injury, because they have a specialist with any type of injury. Like, I currently might need to go see Dr. Watson because I got a foot thing going on that's causing me to not be able to run or do much, right? So that's bothering me. So I know that I can call the Bone and Joint Institute and need to this week to get that checked out. Boneandjointtn.org. You can find them in Franklin at the main campus, also satellite campuses for your convenience in Brentwood, Nolensville, and Thompson Station. Once again, boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports. We'll hear from Mike Vrabel here shortly about Treylon Burks. But first, do want to tell you guys about BetMGM and the Stanley Cup right here, the Stanley Cup final game. This is the opportunity that BetMGM is giving you guys. Code ATOZ200 for a $10 moneyline wager in tonight's Stanley Cup final game to win $200 when either team scores a goal. Somebody's going to score. I mean, this is literally...
It's perfect. It's perfect because you are automatically going to win $200.
You're going to win. Like this, we do these promos quite a bit because of BetMGM, and they send us different ones for you guys. This is the best one that they've had.
Yeah.
I mean, it's set up. It's fail proof. Yes. ATOZ200. ATOZ200. There's a promo code drop down right when you sign up. Download the app, sign up. $10 moneyline wager on the Stanley Cup final game tonight. Any team scores, somebody's got to score. You're going to get $200. So there you go. Download the app today.
I mean, they could go 18 overtimes, and you're still going to win $200. All right, so here's Mike Vrabel on Treylon Burks and Jeffrey Simmons yesterday.
Yeah, just unavailable.
Contract deal going on?
Unavailable. That's how we're going to go. You guys don't practice, and it's not an injury report.
Same deal with Treylon?
Unavailable.
Oh, man.
We have to play this again.
They're unloading the dumpsters behind me at St. Thomas Sports Park, so there's probably some clanging noises. But
what do you mean, what we just listened to?
Yeah, the unavailable dumpster fire that was this for Mike Vrabel. So he was asked initially by Jeffrey Simmons not being there, and then he got into Treylon Burks. But, I mean, you can play a drinking game with unavailable here for Mike Vrabel.
Just unavailable.
Contract deal going on?
Unavailable. That's how we're going to go. You guys don't practice, and it's not an injury report.
Same deal with Treylon?
Unavailable.
It's like, yeah, and Caleb is absolutely right. It's the most Belichick answer ever, but there's a little bit more force, right? Like, Belichick has no emotion when he says it. He's just like, this was my answer before you asked. This is my answer now, and this is going to be my answer when you ask again tomorrow. Vrabel does it differently because when Vrabel, if you heard him just there, he basically said they're unavailable today, and when you ask about a player that didn't practice, they're going to be unavailable that day too. So it was like kind of a Sabanism.
Yeah, and he said until there's an injury report, they will just be unavailable, right? And when does the injury report come out? Week 1, right? Week 1, Giants. That's when the Wednesday before the Giants game. So guys, that's what, September 7th. So we've got a long way to go until we're going to learn anything more than unavailable. But again, let's get to the actual facts of the matter because somebody did ask that. So Paulie D says, so Simmons was at practice but didn't practice. So here's what I can tell you is that Jeffrey Simmons, everybody's in attendance, right? Jeffrey Simmons was at practice, but he did not go through practice. He was riding a stationary bike outside the weight room, and Treylon Burks was right there with him riding that a stationary bike by the weight room. We can't video that. We can't report anything other than that, but that is what –
You do know that, Austin.
Yeah, I've been through that. Although there is no third field right now because they're tearing it up. redo it. So now it gets even murkier because you've got Caleb Farley and Robert Woods and other injury guys doing conditioning on the second field instead of the third field. So Matt says he's working beside me. I don't know where Matt's at, but apparently Matt's near me here at St. Thomas Sports Park, which is funny. But anyway, so Greg Maben was also a part of that group too. So now let's talk about Treylon Burks. We have not seen Treylon Burks practice since June 1st because he missed the voluntary OTA. He was unavailable for that on June 7th. Then yesterday, June 14th, he was unavailable. So now, where is and what are we going to see from Treylon Burks today before everybody disappears for 6 weeks before training camp, right? Like, can we see anything from Treylon Burks? I'm just curious to see what's going to happen here.
All right, I have an opinion on this. And we're going to get to your guys' opinion. We kind of jumped the gun with the question. We probably should have waited. We'll re-ask you the question. So
Sure.
That was our fault on that. So we'll re-ask this question, but this is what I think that the Titans did, and in particular, Mike Vrabel. I have no inside information on this. This is my opinion. So that's my disclosure. I think look, they knew he had asthma. At least that's what they told us, right? So like they knew he had the medical condition. They knew that. When he came out and couldn't finish practice and then it happened again, I bet you they pulled Burks in and said, you're not getting back on that practice field until your ass gets in shape. And we're going to get you a nutritionist. We're going to get you the strength and conditioning coach. And you are not. We're going to get your asthma right. And like, that is what that is. You can't truly do something about it unless you just don't draft somebody based on that. But go ahead.
My one rebuttal to that, because you're saying we got to get your ass in shape before you're out there and doing drills. How many times do we hear football coaches and football people say, I don't care what type of training you do, nothing prepares you for practicing football like doing the actual practice.
He's not ready for that.
Right. And that's
so you don't want to throw him out to get injured or hurt or pull a hamstring because he's not in shape.
He can still do something. And here's the thing,
well,
though, Zach.
He is. He's riding the bike.
But here's the thing, though, Zach. June 1st, because I went back in my phone and looked at all the damn videos that I have of the last several weeks, is that June 1st, Treylon Burks did the most that he's done at a practice open to the media on June 1st. Then we haven't seen him since, because last Tuesday was Rob Moore confirming that he has asthma. And then yesterday on a Tuesday, he was unavailable. And honestly, I'm expecting him to be unavailable today. Because I will say this, it's 95 degrees out here. The humidity is thick. I was driving in today and looking at the Nashville skyline. Looks like it's raining. It's so damn thick, it looks like it's raining in the distance. It's not. It's just humid. So I think it's not a bad idea to not push a guy who is dealing with the elements in this type of weather on the last day before you break for 6 weeks.
He's not in shape. He's not in the shape that they need him to be in. That's my opinion, is that they said you're not practicing until you get in shape. And he's not. And so what do when they do with the players? Now, Jeffrey Simmons is different, but for Treylon Burks, he is on the bike. This is a preventative measure for him not to get hurt, right? Because when you're out of shape, you cannot do all of the drills correctly. So it's just like if you're going to do something, do it 100% and do it to the best of your ability. But if you're not, and it's June, you did. I agree with that. That's correct. But that's my opinion. I think that they sat him down and they said, you're not going to practice until you get back in shape, and you better be in shape once training camp rolls around, because we're not going to baby you like I feel like they have. And here's the big difference. And Brent, I do want to showcase your comment, because Titans fans are fearful. And here's what they're fearful. Brent says, I hope Burks isn't Isaiah Wilson 2.0. The last 3 first-round picks seem like wasted picks. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. But the perception from Titans fans like Isaiah Wilson blows. He's gone. He is the worst pick in NFL history. That will never go away from John Robinson's resume. Caleb Farley is a questionable pick. I question it because of the back. He came back, and unfortunately, he tore his ACL. But he's not stacking good days. He's stacking injured days from the time that he became a Titan. Now you got Treylon Burks, who has asthma, who couldn't finish a drill to start the damn season, the off season, and now he's on the bike because at the end of the day, they don't trust him. They don't trust that he can do the drills. I mean, that's how I sum it up.
That's what they're showing us. Yes, that they don't trust him. Now, I was snickering earlier because this comment by Ricochet Ray just got me. Treylon Burgers just made me laugh. But also, so somebody also asked James, how did Burks play at Arkansas? And I actually have to give a solid hat tip and tip of the cap to John Glennon at SI, who talked to some medical professionals that deal with asthma and allergies in general. In college, you don't have mandatory mini camps in June. You don't have OTA practices in May when all this pollen is really, blooming. You don't have that. In college, you start football practice in August. August, you don't have that pollen. You don't have the asthma heightened situations there. And then you go through and play throughout the fall when you don't have those conditions as well. And so maybe this is the first time that he's really had to put his body through this strenuous of activity during these months of the year. And again, I think
that's an excuse.
No, I think, Zach, it's a medical condition. Like, if he's got asthma, it's a medical condition.
I understand asthma is a medical condition, but
that's what I'm talking about.
Dadson, I'll give Dadson credit. I use shape as a term that correlates to condition, right? So if you're not conditioned, you're not in shape, in my opinion. So that's how I use that term. That's an excuse. No one gives a damn. You think we care? No one cares.
I'm not saying, Zach, you're taking it the wrong way.
That's what I'm saying. No one cares that you're not in shape. No one cares that you can't run drills outside in June. I don't give a rip. And you know why? Because I don't give a rip if you're tired on 3rd and 7 when the Titans need you week 14.
Totally agree.
I don't care. I don't care about your asthma condition. I don't care. I'm sorry.
Well,
and you could say, no, let me say this. You could say that's insensitive or come on, man. Zach, I can't believe you're talking about his medical condition. I don't give a damn. You need to be there on the field. You're a first-round pick. You just traded away the franchise player of A.J. Brown because of contract talks. And now number 16 is the guy to come in there to replace him. So, look, the good part is you got time to get your ass in shape over the summer and through training camp for week 1. But at the end of the day, we don't care. And that's just how it is. So that's my 2 cents on the matter.
Yeah, I think it's alarming and worth monitoring, to continue to monitor, that he's unable to do anything at this point. And so my point is, and I was going off of what John Glennon reported at SI.com about the situation. And for everybody who said that colleges do spring practices start in February. That's the winter. And they usually end in early April. That's at the very beginning of the pollen season, right? So pollen really heats up in Nashville in late April, May, and now June with the situation that we have going on. So again, I think there's a legitimacy to the asthma, but I also know this, Zach, that if you're in better cardiovascular shape, that helps you contain your asthma and manage your asthma, just like anything, right? Just like any medical condition. If you're in better shape, if you're healthier, then it helps you monitor and manage those other medical conditions because your body is working more efficiently. The problem with Treylon Burks is his body is not in shape, therefore not working efficiently, therefore the asthma is having a bigger impact. And it's happening as he's starting his NFL career as a first-round draft pick with a ton of pressure on his shoulders.
Well, and here's the crux of it is that there's going to be blame on one party, right? So Roger brings up, which I respect, right? So Roger says, speaking as an asthma sufferer, it's not an excuse. If forced, it could go and be fatal, right? And nobody wants the asthma to be fatal. And Roger speaks from experience, so all I can do is read his comment. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. If it's the asthma's fault, then it's the Titans' fault for drafting the guy. If he can't stay in shape because physically he doesn't have the drive or whatever, then it's Treylon Burks' fault. So either way, the bad part about it is it's a situation that the franchise doesn't need to deal with, right? Yeah. Whoever's fault it is, that's where I go back to no one cares. It literally is one of my life sayings. I say this to our employees. I say this to everybody because at the end of the day, no one cares. Get the job done. And Treylon Burks right now, the fact is he's not getting any job done. He's on the side. And so all he's doing is he's on the bike.
So let's re-ask the question. Is it a big deal, small deal, or no deal that Treylon Burks was unavailable throughout the first day of mandatory minicamp? Big deal, small deal, or no deal that Treylon Burks is unavailable in the first day of minicamp? Before we get to all of your answers and our official answers on this, Zach, tell everybody about Wilson County Hyundai.
Yeah, Wilson County Hyundai is where you need to go to get your next ride. Man, it can save you money. These gas prices keep going up. They've got fuel-efficient vehicles at your disposal. They've got inventory that you can search online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com, and they've got the battery-powered Ioniq that you can order. Payne Bone, family-owned and operated, right there in Wilson County. We talked to him as we were right there at the dealership a couple of weeks ago. He can hook you up with a great ride and a great deal to save you some money, to honestly save you money in the long run with the perfect make and model for you and your family. Visit wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
Also, don't forget, just a guaranteed winner. Like BetMGM has never had a deal like this because this is guaranteed $200 in your account to play with if you're a new user, because the Stanley Cup Final starts tonight. So go take it. Look, there's going to be a lot of goals because these two teams are really fun to watch in Colorado and Tampa Bay. But hold on. New users, download the BetMGM app. Use our code ATOZ200. That's ATOZ200. All you got to do is place a $10 moneyline wager on either team in the NHL tonight, and you win $200 when a single goal is scored. A goal has to be scored or the game will not end. They could go to 1 million overtimes and a goal has to be scored. So there's a guaranteed $200 for you to sign up with a BetMGM app today. All you got to do a $10 moneyline wager on Tampa or Colorado, and you get $200 in your account as soon as the game is over tonight in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions subject to qualification, eligible requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets. Like credit, free bets expire 7 days. For problem game support, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. Zach, I'm going to send you to the comment section. Big deal, small deal, or no deal that Treylon Burks was unavailable for day 1 of Titans minicamp.
All right, let's go. And this is why we asked the question, because we do have different answers. Joey says small deal. It's still too early. So does Steven, small deal. CP calls me out, says overreact much, Zach. It's June, not September. Small deal at best. Well,
can I respond to that?
Yeah.
It is June, not September. But in June, you need to be within striking distance of where you need to be for training camp. And right now, I don't know if Treylon Burks is in striking distance of getting to where he needs to be physically for training camp.
Yeah, he's not.
And I'll say this too, because every day he misses are missed actual real reps with Ryan Tannehill. And we'll talk about that throughout the summer, I know for sure.
Brent says big deal. Juan says no deal. It's June. The best ability is availability from Jason Martinez. Coach. So spitting that cliche, that is the truth. Don't care. It's still August. Unavailable from Chris. Schmedium from Jimbo. Huge deal, man. Terrible pick. Titans wanted one of the first other receivers drafted. Now, Treylon Burks, and this is Devin's opinion, but Treylon Burks was the 6th pick at wide receiver in the first round. There was only 6 wide receivers drafted in the third round. So he was the last. He wasn't the pick of the litter. He was the last pick of the litter. We'll find out if the runt turns into the best dog, right? I mean, and that happens. So we'll find that out. That's kind of the best part about this, but it's not starting off very well. Paulie D says, big deal. He continues to be unavailable to practice. Not good. Small deal from Guy. Jabu says, small deal. It's still June. Unavailable deal from Chris. Big deal from Paul. One Nation Underground says, big deal. Small deal from Ronald. Medium, kind of from Stephen King. No deal yet again from Sin City Titan. Big, our history with first-round picks from Valentino. Dylon. Let's go up to Dylon. We got a lot of comments going out. Wow, that's a lot of comments. Dylon says, big deal. He's been unavailable for a month. Nick says, big deal, very big deal. So now the big deals are starting to roll in.
Yep.
Nasser says, big deal, first-round pick. Great power comes great responsibility. We've got Damon. It's a big deal. Another first-round pick in a questionable situation, 3 in a row. So, look, there's so many comments, and we appreciate this. You know, it's between small deal and big deal, but big deal is now, and I will say this, that's probably the 3rd time we've asked that question. And I'll tell you this, we're probably going to ask it again because we've had more big deals this go around than we have before.
So I'm guessing, Zach, you're a big deal.
I am a big deal with what the chat said because this is, it's a couple of things. First round pick, right? The history of these first-round picks, you spoiled Isaiah Wilson. I mean, he's rotted, right? He's rotten.
Well,
he's
spoiled
gone.
himself. He
right?
rotted his own brain.
The Titans picked him. He put on a Titans helmet.
Yeah.
So, that's shared responsibility. Caleb Farley, questionable with the back procedure. We talked about that at length. And then comes in and tears his ACL. Unfortunate circumstance, but you can't do anything about it, It's still your first-round pick. You need guys that are able to play. You need healthy guys. And they didn't draft a healthy individual. Caleb Farley was not healthy when they drafted him. So that says something. And then Treylon Burks comes in, and his slow start with the pressure that this man has on his shoulders because of the A.J. Brown complex everybody in this city has. And it's understandable. But this is a big deal because they can't afford to fail on Treylon Burks. Yesterday, Austin, you spoke about Justin Jefferson. This is something that I want to do this week and leading into training camp. Justin Jefferson, the rinse and repeat, that worked for Minnesota. They traded away Stephon Diggs. They drafted, they rinsed off, and then they repeated, right? They drafted another guy that helped them right out of the gate. That doesn't always happen. The majority of the time, I feel like when you trade away a superstar, it's hard to replace that individual. And the Titans are trying to do this. So right now, this is a big deal. Their superstar wide receiver that they drafted in the first round is quote unquote unavailable.
Yeah. So
no good.
It's just June 15th. And I am not going to say this is a big deal until it affects training camp. And right now, I still don't see it affecting training camp. If the first week of training camp comes out, the first thing Treylon Burks has to do is pass a conditioning test. If he even gets close to missing that, now it's a big deal. If this affects him, if this causes him to miss practices throughout training camp, is a big deal. Now,
practice. Now let's say practices. If he has to stop reps because of this, it's a major deal. One time, it's the little boy who cried wolf, right? So you keep on going, You don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. Treylon Burks has spoiled away his benefit this offseason for honestly,
but I also
Titans career until he shows that he is a superstar.
But I also know that how Mike Vrabel goes with, he manages players. He looks at players' mileage and speed. And he mentioned that when he was talking about Burks from 2 weeks ago, practicing on June 1st, saying the mileage and the explosive and the speed, the measurables were there of what he was doing throughout practice. And so he was pleased with that. And for whatever reason, we haven't seen him since June 1st. But I also know that guys are managed throughout training camp to make sure they can get them healthy to game one, right? And I think Treylon Burks, he needs reps with Tannehill. And if he is significantly whiffing on those reps and missing out on those reps because of this asthma and because of his lack of conditioning, then yes, it will be a big deal. But right now, it's still not a big deal. It's not a big deal until he reports to training camp. July 26th. Mike Vrabel said the date yesterday. July 26th, that's when this will start to be a big deal if it's still a thing. I'm still at small deal.
You look at all of the outside games. The good thing is they don't play Jacksonville week 3 like they usually do in Jacksonville, or
Right.
where the heat there. Now, Indy, they play them early. The barn may be open, right? So you may have hotness there. They only have in Houston. They'll probably close it in Houston, but they play the majority of their games outside. I mean, and I know I don't know, it's a nuance. But
I mean, Treylon Burks played all of his games outside in the SEC for his entire career.
Why is he dealing with this now?
Nashville, man. It's Nashville.
It's an excuse.
No, it's a reason, dude.
How can you go to? How can players go? What is he going to do when you go to Denver? Now, I think they play Denver at home. Luckily,
yes. Yeah.
What do players do when they go to Denver, the Mile High, in a playoff game, and they are huffing air?
Ryan Clark almost died. Because he had a medical condition.
Well, we sure as hell hope that the Titans don't play Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos in Mile High in the playoffs.
But again, the difference is
they're excuses.
January. But
they're
Zach,
excuses.
it's January. Zach,
excuses.
Hold on. Calm your ass down for a second. Because we're not talking about if he had to play in Nashville, if he was a baseball player and he was playing for the Nashville Sounds, probably wouldn't go very well, right? Because he's playing 35 games in the month of May. That wouldn't go very well. But he's not. He's playing football games in Nashville in September through January, which is obviously fine. He played games in Tuscaloosa, Auburn, Alabama, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Oxford, Mississippi, Starkville, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, his entire career in college. And it wasn't an issue there.
Why is
because
it an issue
of
now?
September through December. September through December. We have to remember that is important here. Because that is ask anybody with asthma. That is it's not that big of a deal during those months. It's different. And Nashville is different than Arkansas. Nashville is different than Knoxville.
You're the first round pick.
Nashville's different.
You're the first round pick. You don't get that luxury.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but again,
well, that's my point. If you're not disagreeing with my point, then we agree.
Zach, 3 weeks ago, I said that Treylon Burks has the most pressure of any Tennessee Titans first round pick as his rookie. That I believe he has more pressure than any other player the Tennessee Titans have selected in the first round of the draft as a rookie. But let's also try to understand what this situation is and try to be smarter about it and not just flip out because the guy can't practice in May or June because he's not playing in May or June.
He doesn't
get paid checks until May or June.
No one cares. No one cares. And the point is, it's not off to a great start.
It's not. And I'm the one who said it was a terrible first impression. A first impression that he probably could not afford. And the Titans also made it worse by hiding that he had asthma for a month. All these things are true. But we have to, now that we actually know that the guy has asthma and is not just a fat slob, that he's got asthma and that's making it harder on him, then I think we need to reset ourselves and understand.
It doesn't make anybody feel any better. Right? Honestly, to be honest, I kind of wish he was a fat slob because you can always get in shape, right? Now you have a medical condition that you cannot do anything about. Look, I'm not pulling any questions over that.
AJB on YouTube says, Zach, why has he never had these problems before? Austin gives perfectly reasonable response. Zach, that's just an excuse. That's how I feel, AJ, every damn day.
What are you talking about? You just agreed with what I said.
Yes, but you everything I said about the time of the year, the seasonality of it, and when he's played in college, and what he did in college made him a first-round pick, because everybody was talking about Treylon Burks as a first-round pick. So what's your problem with this?
AJB 4356. The reason why it is an excuse, as I say again, is because no one cares. You were drafted to do a job, and starting out, you are unavailable to do your job. No, with the amount of pressure. No, with the amount of pressure on this individual, I believe matters. That is the caveat. We're not talking about a third-round pick. We're not talking about a third-round picks that missing some blows because he has asthma. We wouldn't be talking about him. We would not be talking about him at length as we do. That is why I said it was an excuse, AJB4356. So you can put that in your pipe and smoke it and understand why we are talking about it the way that we are talking about it.
But again,
no one cares. That's again, I'll tell you that. No one cares that you're in Nashville or you're in Denver or you can't. No one cares.
Right.
Do your
nobody
job.
Nobody can say anything to Zach because he'll just shove that right in your face, and you can't say anything productive. So there's no ability to have a productive conversation because all you do is scream "no one cares" back in your face.
In this instance, it is correct.
Again, it's a small deal. This is a thing. It is a real thing. It's a small deal. It is not a big deal until it starts to affect negatively the way he can prepare for the season. Is he within striking distance?
It's already negatively affecting that, correct? Because he's missing reps with his quarterback.
We don't know.
Is that negative? No, it's negatively affecting it because he's missing reps with his quarterback.
I'm saying we don't know if it's affecting the on-field product, right?
And look, you can talk to AJB 4569, and then you get guys that I like Ryan Fields, Zach speaking facts, Austin, like always.
Ryan Fields is a delusional Kentucky fan.
If you want to sit there.
And Juan, that was a joke, dude. And Juan says, is Zach even a Titans fan? Juan, welcome to the show. We are not Titans fans. We are Titans media. Zach's been covering the Tennessee Titans as a media member for like 13 years. This is year 10 for me. So Juan, welcome to the show. It's not our job to be a Titans fan. We are covering the team. There you go.
No, that should actually give me more value to you.
Yes.
Like you don't want people. You don't want yes men in your life. Yes men get you, they make you go bankrupt. Yes men go down. I am not a yes man, as you can tell, because I don't care, right? So that's the philosophy of our show is we need to speak about this the way that we truly feel. Sometimes Austin feels one way and I feel the other. Sometimes we agree. That's sometimes few and far between, but that happens, that we've agreed before and we will agree again. But this show is not built on, we don't have Titan, in the background. Like this is what it is. We have a Tighten Up
podcast with Austin Huff and Jack Gentry. It is a Titans podcast for Titans fans that we run, right? And new episode came out this morning. So Juan can go check out the Tighten Up podcast on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network for that, if that's your speed. But you can have both, and we have both for everybody. All right.
So let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Treylon Burks is going to be the biggest story for the Titans. Obviously until week 1, because that's the only way that he can prove his true value. He could have an unbelievable preseason, but he can't get hurt. He can't get injured. He can't take plays off. He can't leave practice. He's kind of screwed himself in that sense because of his slow start.
Sheila John says, Zach is the hammer and Austin is the level. You need both to get a good job done.
House is going to crumble without any nails and hammer.
Well, yeah, but again, like if you don't have me the level, then you're crooked. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's something
Well,
you got to have both.
we still have the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right?
Yeah, that's true. All right, I have a practice story about Kevin Byard that I believe is a double victory for the Titans. I'll explain that here in a second, but Zach, tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yes, fbhp.com/A to Z. I changed my health plans. You can change yours. And in all seriousness, you probably need to get a quote just to see how much you can save. I'm saving 20% on mine was over $200 a month, and now it's under $200 a month, right? So I saved 20% by switching to Farm Bureau Health Plans, and I've already reaped the benefits. I had the flu a couple of weeks ago. As you guys know, I was out for a week, had 103-degree fever. It was tough. It was not in a good state. I had a teledoc conference, which was free because of my plan, and I got prescription medicine to help me, got me back up on my feet over the next couple of days, and I survived. I'm now back, like the hammer that I'm trying to be, right? But I was nowhere close to a hammer when I had the flu. Farm Bureau Health Plans helped me get back to speed. Better coverage, better rates, better service. FBHP.com/A to Z. Over 200 plus locations across Tennessee. Take a look. You can call them or you can go online. That's Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Who's a Tennessean and wants $200 to start off their BetMGM life? You could absolutely do that because they have a guaranteed $200 in your account win tonight. All you got to do, download the app, Apple or Android, doesn't matter. Download the app, use the code ATOZ200. That's ATOZ200. You place a $10 moneyline wager on Tampa or Colorado in the NHL Stanley Cup Final Game 1 tonight. Just Game 1 moneyline wager of $10. That's all you got to do. And boom, $200 in your account as soon as there's a goal scored, which means there's going to be a goal scored. You're going to win $200 because as soon as the game is over, like they got to have a goal scored to end the game. So this is the best deal that BetMGM's ever thrown out there with the BetMGM app with code A2Z200. Zach, what were you laughing at?
John's comment is very good. Zach, do you think you got the flu because you were not used to the weather or because you were out of shape?
Excuses.
Good question, John. I don't know why I got the flu, but I knew when I had 103-degree fever that nobody was going to come in there and change that. I was going to have to just get over it, right? No one cared that I had a 100-degree fever. So I finally got through it. Even, the teledoc, I mean, it helped me. She gave me a prescription, but that was tough. So, John, good comment right there.
All right. So yesterday in practice, they did towards the end of the day, they did 7-on-7 red zone drills, and they were probably snapping the ball from like the 7-ish yard line. So 7-on-7, they rotated Tannehill, Woodside, Malik, all had their shot with their group of receivers and pass catchers to go through. Chig Okonkwo, rookie tight end out of Maryland, caught 3 touchdown passes, 2 from Tannehill, 1 from Woodside, looked really, really good, right? And so one of Chig's touchdown catches was in the corner of the end zone. Beautiful throw by Tannehill, beautiful catch by Chig over a tightly covered Kevin Byard. And me and some other media members noticed, okay, Chig's starting to come along, right? Here comes Chig Okonkwo. So I was going to go talk to Kevin Byard after practice and ask him about the development of Chig and some of the other younger new weapons. And then as soon as that conversation was starting, Robbie Bourne of the Titans told us that Byard's talking on the podium today. So we'll save it. We'll talk about it afterwards. But what KB said before that got interrupted is he was pissed because this was like the last period right before practice ends. He was pissed. Yeah, they got open today. There's not pass rush out there, but they got open today and they caught touchdowns. We'll see how open they get tomorrow. And I was like, okay, it's June 14th and Kevin Byard's pissed off about getting beat by rookie tight end. And he's pissed off that his defense had a lot of touchdowns scored on them throughout the day. In a drill that's set up for the defense to fail, Kevin Byard is pissed about how that went and said, we'll see how they get open today. We said tomorrow, which is today. So, I think that shows you that Kevin Byard's dialed in. He's a leader of this defense. He had an all-pro season last year. I think he's going to be on his way to do it again because he's now got familiar faces around him. And so I was like, kind of surprised. I was expecting nonchalant summer Kevin Byard to answer the question like, yeah, I mean, they're getting better. Tannehill's getting good. I was expecting a laid back answer, but I got, yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow. And I thought that was really, really interesting to hear.
Well, it tells you, it solidifies what we know about Kevin Byard being a leader. He had that one down year a couple of years ago, and he came back and he did. I mean, he basically just put that in his rear view and got back to who he was as a player. And now I think Byard, just like he should, he knows that this defense, and hopefully over the next several years, the potential is probably the best potential that they've ever had as a defense, right? Like, and you could even say the franchise, but let's just talk about KB's career, that he's been a Titan. This year, going into this year, on paper, with the experience, with the success carried over from last year, this defense has the most potential of any defense that Kevin Byard has been a part of. I don't want to discredit the 2008 defense, because that was pretty stellar. But even the defenses they had.
Yeah,
early.
That's what I was going to say. The 2001 defense was number 1 in like 4 or 5 categories. And so like that defense was insane, right?
But like potential, right? Like,
yeah. Because like modern day, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to call Blaine Bishop old. I wonder if he's going to be out here this morning, and I'll tell him that I called him not modern day football player. But that was not modern day, right? Like that was 20 plus years ago, where the game has changed so much. But yeah, the defense is set up to be really, really good this year.
That's interesting. Well, the best part is today you can report back. Let's see if KB is going to put his money where his mouth is, Yeah,
he's got a lot of money and he's got a mouth he's not afraid to use. So we'll see how that works out here if they go back to that 7-on-7 drill to see how competitive they're going to be. So, Zach, let's wrap this thing up. I'm about to head out over there to Titans practice, but we do have to throw shade before we go. Let's hit it. Throwing shade as we end every Wednesday this way. A lot of good conversation for over an hour today about Titans minicamp, and we've got topics galore to get you tomorrow, the rest of the week as well, as practice continues today in about 25 minutes when they start practice. I'll be over there. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well for tons of content. Hit us up on all social media. We'll have coverage on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. We've got you covered 5 different platforms for you in Titans minicamp coverage. Zach, do you want to start your shade?
I can. Mine has nothing to do with sports whatsoever.
Okay.
But I do want to start this because I followed. This is actually when I had the flu for the 3 days or 4 days. It felt like an eternity. It was rough. But when I did have the flu, it was at the height of the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. So as I was sweating in my sweats, I was listening to that and being entertained by Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. But here's my shade. So Amber Heard lost. You lost, okay? Everybody knows you lost. She decided to write a full op-ed on Johnny Depp and, the defamation claim and try to pull him down. He lost money and jobs for that. And, Johnny Depp was awarded like $20 million, right? And now Amber Heard is going on the Today Show and trying to claim back all of what she has lost. My shade is on Amber Heard. You lost. You lost in every single facet. Everybody was making fun of you on TikTok, on social media, you being an actress in Aquaman. And I think you got yanked from Aquaman too, right? So Amber Heard, it shows that, and we live by a jury of our peers. That's what we live around in the United States of America. And they found Johnny Depp won this trial. So my shade, Amber Heard, and hopefully this is the last time I will speak of this. Get off of my screen and out of my life, Amber Heard. I don't care that you're speaking out. You had the opportunity to speak out, and you lost. So I thought she lied multiple times. I'm not sitting here saying Johnny Depp is the best guy in the world, right? So I'm not saying that. But a jury of our peers finalized that you lost. So zip it. That is my shade on Amber Heard.
I have a double-edged sword shade today, and it has to do with something that we really haven't talked about that much on this show, but it's the Vols baseball team and everything surrounding the Vols baseball team. Why is it a double-edged sword shade, which is hard to say, is because the Vols baseball team deserves shade, and everybody who got so triggered and aggravated by the Vols baseball team also deserves shade. Because here is the fact. The Tennessee Vols baseball team was a good thing for the sport of college baseball this season. They failed. The cocky, arrogant guys in Knoxville came up teeny tiny small against Notre Dame in the 7th inning and on to advance to Omaha, and they failed to get back to Omaha. So my shade is on those guys who want to swing it around and be as cocky as they can be, but came up so small in the biggest moment of that season. So there's one shade. But then I've got shade on Danny Cannell, Vandy baseball fans, and everybody else who tries to act like they own college baseball, that they are the college baseball like higher standard. All these Vandy fans who act like they're the only people who can talk about college baseball is why nobody cares about college baseball. They're so like snooty about the
they have
unwritten
rings,
rules.
Austin.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the rings, because I give Tim Corbin and Vandy credit all the time. I think it's one of the best.
But that's
programs
why
in the
they are
state.
the way that they are. They have rings.
But they act like instead of being soccer fans are the same way. Instead of being welcoming to new fans to grow the sport you love, they stick their nose up at new fans paying attention to the sport they love, which turns away new fans from the sport that they love. That's my shade. Because Danny Cannell tweeted in response to Tennessee, the bat flip and a bat spike. Danny Cannell said, "I'd throw at him next batter." So you're saying that a college athlete showing emotion is deserving of pegging that guy and throwing at the guy the next, like that makes no sense. You turn from emotion, pure raw emotion about a sport in college to hitting the player with a 95-mile-an-hour baseball the next time he's up there. Like, is that mature? Which is more immature? Retaliating with a 95-mile-an-hour baseball to a player, or reacting with raw emotion? Like, it's like, quit taking college baseball so seriously and let it be more fun. That's my point. Let college baseball be more fun. Stop sticking your nose out at people.
So I agree with the majority of what you said. I do, because I think college baseball should take that and accept that. But that's not what baseball represents, right? If you teach these college baseball players to do that, you honestly hope that it seeps up into the Major League Baseball to make that more fun, right? But there are these unwritten rules around baseball where you do throw at a guy that is cocky, right? And I hate them, right? I don't like the unwritten rules, but there are unwritten rules. And here's the other reason. The rivalry of Vandy and Tennessee, I do think kind of moot that point, right? And here's my reasoning. Vandy has owned the baseball hemisphere for some time, right? Tennessee was the best team in baseball this season, I thought, throughout the course. And Vol Twitter is annoying as all get out. They are obnoxious. They are rabid. That's kind of what makes them so passionate, right?
Yeah.
When they lose, just like the Yankees and the Lakers and the Patriots and the Cowboys, all of the people that have won before, they sit there and ha, 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 ha. The Dallas Cowboys are a perfect example, right? They haven't won anything since the 90s. When they go out, everybody and their mother comes out and says, ha, 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 ha. That was an example of Vandy, because they can't do that in other sports, laugh at the best team in baseball coming up small in the biggest moment. So I actually enjoyed watching that. Like
But
watching Vandy laugh at them because it's a
no,
rivalry.
no. That's not the point that I'm making. The point is not the laughing at Tennessee, because Tennessee deserves all the heat coming at them, because if you're going to dish it like you did for 4 months, then you gotta own it when it comes back at you when you came up small in that moment. So I will clarify what I'm saying. Tennessee deserves all the heat coming back into their face for how their season ended. But my point is of how I saw Vandy fans, guys like Danny Cannell, who are sticking their nose up and acting like they're above new baseball fans. Like college baseball is a super niche
Vandy
sport.
didn't do that because of new baseball fans. Vandy did that because it was Tennessee, though. Like, they don't care about new baseball fans. Vandy hates Tennessee. Tennessee hates Vandy.
Right.
You
And
as
I'm
a
glad
Tennessee
they're both
fan, and
good.
I will say this, I think you're taking that because you are a Tennessee fan. It's okay. But as a Tennessee fan, you see Vandy fans, you don't like them. I get it, right? That's fine.
Right,
But
because they're
Vandy
like
fans, this was
pretentious.
their lap. It's their victory lap. You failed in the biggest moment.
Right.
You were the best team. Everybody knew it, and you sucked. Notre
And I'm
Dame,
laughing
of all
at him
teams.
too. Like, I'm laughing at him too. Like, you weren't with me, but ask my wife. When that final double play ended the Tennessee season in the 9th inning, I busted out laughing. I said I laughed my ass off on the couch because of all the things that they've done to come up that small. And so I'm not
And
against
Vandy
shoving it
was
back.
just making fun of that.
I'm not against shoving it back in their face. I'm pro that. I'm pro. Like, if you're going to be that cocky and arrogant, then take it when it comes back at you. I'm talking about how they talk about the game of every time a Tennessee fan gets excited about something, they say, well, you've never paid attention to baseball before. Well,
It's
stop
true.
being like a
It's
yeah,
true.
but it's the attitude and how they bring it, right?
Because you're Tennessee.
Hold on. But it's the same thing as soccer. Like, if I have a question about something, answer my question with like this is how it works in college baseball. They set it up like this because there was some weird stuff with like who's the home team and who's the away team when you're hosting a regional. That makes no sense to me. And I saw Vandy fans like, yeah, well, if you paid attention to baseball before now, then you'd know. Why not just say, yeah, that's how it works, because
you're
now it's always been
Tennessee.
set up.
I
just
hate
think
you.
it's-
I would do the same thing to State, right? I hate them. I wouldn't tell them anything. I hope Ole Miss wins. It pained me last year. It hurt me because they beat Vandy. I was rooting hard for Vandy because I hate State so bad. If State did the same thing this year because they were walking tall, they won the championship. I will admit that, right? But this is a Vandy, Tennessee thing. The Cannell thing is different. I think that's just Cannell being Danny Cannell, who nobody talks about anymore. But this is a Vandy, Tennessee rivalry. So I'm not hating on your shade,
good.
but
no. Like,
it's between the two.
Well, I'm here for the conversation. The best thing about it is that now Vandy and Tennessee has a really strong baseball rivalry that both sides care about. That's good. That's a good thing for the state of Tennessee and for the back and forth between the two schools. So that's my shade, my double-edged sword shade. I got to go.
Yeah, I know you got to go. If only Vandy could do that in the other sports, right? So
they got to start caring first. They can't, they don't have the alumni like David Price and Sonny Gray dishing back millions of dollars to improve their Vandy baseball facility on football and basketball. But, they keep putting out these plans, these great plans of, here's how we're going to use all this money we're going to raise whenever they decide to raise the money. But we'll see how that goes. But great show today, talking a lot about Treylon Burks, Derrick Henry, and a lot of good Titans topics. I'll be in the practice facility in about 5 minutes, giving you guys great content that should come out around 11:15 this morning. Again, make sure you follow us all over social media, but really pay close attention to what we're doing on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That's where you should go for all of our Titans practice video reaction, player interviews, practice highlights, press conferences, and more. Make sure you subscribe and like this video on YouTube, and we'll catch you guys later on. Appreciate it.
Adios.